Hi everyone, I miss you guys so much. It's super exciting to start a new book and I really want to read it along with you guys. So if you already read it on your own, that's great, but I think I'm going to be posting videos of me reading it to you, and if you want to follow along, that'd be great. So I'm going to start off with chapter 1. Alright, here we go. Once, in a house on Egypt Street, there lived a rabbit who was made almost entirely of china. He had china arms and a china leg, china paws and a china head, a china torso and a china nose. His arms and legs were jointed and joined by a wire so that his china elbows and china knees could be bent, giving him much freedom of movement. His ears were made of real rabbit fur, and beneath the fur there were strong bendable wires, which allows the ears to be arranged into poses that reflected the rabbit's mood: jaunty, tired, and full of ennui. His tail, too, was made of real rabbit fur and was fluffy and soft and well-shaped. They're telling us right now how Edward Tulane looks, because the rabbit name was Edward Tulane, and he was tall. He measured almost 3 feet from the tip of his ears to the tip of his feet. His eyes were painted a penetrating, intelligent blue. In all, Edward Tulane felt himself to be an exceptional specimen. Only his whiskers gave him poise. They were long and elegant, as they should be, but they were of uncertain origin, meaning he doesn't know where they're from. They're not actually his whiskers. Edward felt quite strongly that they were not the whiskers of a rabbit, whom the whiskers had belonged to initially. What an unsavory animal was a question that Edward could not bear to consider for too long, and so he did not. He preferred, as a rule, not to think unpleasant thoughts. Edward's mistress was a 10-year-old dark-haired girl named Abilene Tulane, who thought almost as highly of Edward as Edward thought of himself. Each morning, after she dressed herself for school, Abilene dressed Edward. So Abilene is the girl that has Edward. That's what they meant by Edward's mistress. The china rabbit was in possession of an extraordinary wardrobe composed of handmade silk suits, custom shoes fashioned for the finest leather and designed specially for his rabbit feet, and a wide range of hats equipped with holes so that they could easily fit over Edward's large and expressive ears. Each pair of well-cut pants had a small pocket for Edward's gold pocket watch. Abilene wound his watch for him each morning. So wound means on the side of a watch that you could wind it to go back and forth. So that's what she means by they wound his watch. "Now, Edward," she said to him after she has done winding the watch, "when the big hand is on the 12 and the little hand's on the 3, I will come home to you." She placed Edward on a chair in the dining room and positioned the chair so that Edward was looking out the window and can see the path that led up to Tulane's front door. Abilene balanced the watch on his left leg. She kissed the tip of his ears, and then she left. And Edward spent the day staring out at Egypt Street, listening to the tick of his watch and waiting. Of all the seasons of the year, the rabbit most preferred winter, for the sun set early then, and the dining room windows became dark, and Edward could see his own reflection in the glass. And what a reflection it was! What an elegant figure he cut! Edward never ceased to be amazed at his own fineness. Oh my gosh, he really loves himself. In the evening, Edward sat at the dining room table with the other members of the Tulane family: Abilene, her mother and father, and Abilene's grandmother, who was called Pellegrina. True, Edward's ear barely cleared the tabletop, and true also, he spent the duration of the meal staring straight ahead at nothing but the bright, blinding white of the tablecloth. But he was there, a rabbit at the table. Abilene's parents found it charming that Abilene considered Edward real, and that she sometimes requested that a phrase or story be repeated because Edward had not heard it. "Papa," Abilene would say, "I'm afraid that Edward didn't catch that last bit." Abeline's father would then turn in the direction of Edward's ears and speak slowly, repeating what he had just said for the benefit of the china rabbit. Edward pretended, out of the courtesy of Abeline, to listen, but in truth he was not very interested in what people had to say. And also, he did not care for Abeline's parents and their condescending manner towards him. All adults, in fact, condescended to him, meaning they were just playing along. They really didn't feel like he's a rabbit that would actually care about what they say, so they condescended him. They made him feel silly, like that he was not that important. Only Abeline's grandmother spoke to him as Abeline did, as one equal to another. Pellegrina was very old. She had a large, sharp nose and a bright, black eyes that shone like dark stars. It was Pellegrina who was responsible for Edward's existence. It was she who had commissioned his making. She who had ordered his silk suits and his pocket watch, his jaunty hats and his bendable ears, his fine leather shoes and his jointed arms and legs, all from a master craftsman in her native France. It was Pellegrina who had given him as a gift to Abeline on her 7th birthday. And it was Pellegrina who came each night to tuck Abeline into her bed and Edward into his. "Will you tell us a story, Pellegrina?" Abeline asked her grandmother each night. "Not tonight, lady," said Pellegrina. "When?" asked Abigail. "What night?" "Soon," said Pellegrina. "Soon there will be a story." And then she turned off the light, and Edward and Abeline lay in the dark of the bedroom. "I love you, Edward," Abeline said each night after Pellegrina had left. She said those words and then she waited, almost as if she expected Edward to say something in return. Edward said nothing. He said nothing because, of course, he could not speak. He lay in a small bed next to Abeline's large one. He stared up at the ceiling and listened to the sound of her breath entering and leaving her body, knowing that soon she would be asleep. Because Edward's eyes were painted on, he could not close them. He was always awake. Sometimes if Abeline put him into his bed on his side instead of his back, he could see through the cracks in the curtain and out into the dark night. On clear nights, the stars shone, and their pin-prick light comforted Edward in a way that he could not quite understand. Often he stared at the stars all night until the dark finally gave way to dawn. Alright guys, I hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.